Hey, Frank. Oh, yeah, you're muted.
Sorry. Okay. It's giving some sound.
Wow, a lot of feedback.
Yeah. I don't know why that happened. Oh God. Let me see. Do you have anything on this?
No, I don't have anything on. Nothing new. No, I don't have anything on. Good.
It's not still working. All right. This is still giving feedback.
Yeah, there's a lot of feedback.
All right, so I'm going to log off and then come back, okay?
Okay.
All right, let's do this. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you.
All right, good. I think it's fixed.
Okay.
All right, so what happened here? I think I have two open. I have two live open. So that's why it's the other one that was open was giving an echo.
Oh, okay.
All right. So we have two more panelists. We have Brother Yoro. Let me see if I can call him. And then we have Sadiki. He's the one from Africa. I sent him a quick notice, but let me see again if I can check on them back to see.
Okay.
African. All right.
African, how y'all doing this morning, this afternoon?
Hey, African, how you doing?
Good afternoon.
Good. So I'm running a little late. Had to take care of my son.
Okay, that's good. Good to see you.
You too, my brother.
Okay,
so we are live right now. So we are live and we are being covered by other media, as we all know. So we are on Facebook Live on our Facebook page, We Charge Colonization. And we are also on YouTube, and we are also, I believe, on the Black Knowledge channel. And then if any other channel that will be added as well. So backstage we have member of WCC who are also working to put this together, and so we are about to go. We are already live, so we are about to get in the discussion of what we are here for. And also, we are waiting for one of the panelists, Brother Sadiki from, I think, the Gambia. I try getting in touch with him. We've been communicating this morning on a time difference. But let's see if we can give him 2 minutes. If not, and then we can start when he come on, and then he can join us.
Okay.
Okay.
Get down. Get down. Put this in the chair. In the corner. Move, don't do that, move. Come on. Get the speakers off my bed.
It's for my book.
So he's not coming because of time, and we can't wait, and we can't keep our viewer online waiting. So we're gonna go ahead, but it will be very unfortunate that we mix him because he really wanted to be here. So we've been communicating the whole time, but I don't know what's going on. All right. So once again, we are WCC. So we charge colonialism, and we decided to host this discussion as we are fighting for the solution of African worldwide. So with this organization, so we are not just discussing the issue, we are also discussing the issue at the same time, educating the general public, and at the same time, finding solution to our main problem. So the issue here is we are trying to find solution to anything pertaining to African people. So this is not just about debate, or this is not just about discussion. So we are also here for solution because the time is now. Forward ever and backward never, like Prime Minister Nkrumah said. So having said that, I am Frank Joel Mauba, founding member of WCC, We Charge Colonialism, also chair of the Political Action Committee, and I'm also your host for today's discussion. So in here, we have 3 panelists, but currently we only have 2. So the 2 panelists will go ahead to introduce themselves, and then before we can get into the topic or the discussions.
Good morning, family. My name is Nassar Ade. I am a member of We Charge Colonialism, and I'm also the chairperson of the membership committee.
Yeah. Good morning, people. My name is Brother Yaru. I'm a member of the All African People Revolutionary Party.
All right, thank you for that great introduction to the panelists. Once again, we are so grateful having you here and taking of your time to make this discussion to be a fruitful one. This is an introduction to the May 25th. So as you all know, May 25th is African Liberation Day. So this discussion, very good. So this discussion is an introduction to the discussion that will be taking place on May 25th, and recognizing our Pan-Africanist women in society, what they have done and what they are still doing when it comes to the liberation of African people worldwide. So we need to give credit to our Pan-African women. Without them, I think the movement would not have been fruitful and to the extent to where we are today. So kudos to our Pan-Africanist women, and we support you and we are with you. Now, having said that, let's get into the topic. So today's discussion is on decolonization and the need for a new economic system. So that is the topic. Now, the first question here is, when we talk about decolonization and the need for a new economic system, what does that mean when it comes to your mind as decolonization and the need for a new economic system?
Well, I would like to start because in order to answer that question, we have to reflect on our history. Because if we don't remember our history of how we were colonized, and the African fabric and the African system, economic system, was destroyed, we have to look at who invaded Africa, and the foreigners that invaded Africa stole our human labor and also our raw materials, which has caused our financial systems, which was there historically, and taken away, well, stolen from Africa and taken to foreign lands, where we helped to develop these new lands, created massive wealth in these new lands, and pretty much made foreign lands rich while making Africa poor, which continues to this day, from the past to our present time, as we continue to struggle economically. So we have to reflect on our history so we can help change the present conditions of our economic situation.
All right, that's our first panel idea or discussion or solution to decolonization, what we mean when we say decolonization. So, Mr. Yaro, do you want to give your input on when we say decolonization, what do we actually mean when we say decolonize?
To me, I like to let everybody know a famous book is to read by Rodney, How Europe Undeveloped Africa. That is an excellent book, and that will piggyback on what the brother was saying, and you can see how it affects us today. Since Africa defeated, set the colonialism in Africa, we got all the Europeans out, and we control our resources. The next phase is neocolonialism. I think neocolonialism is the biggest factor of Africa today. I think that we have to educate our brothers and sisters and realize that we still do not control our resources. The colonialism people still control our resources. Capitalism, imperialism, and Zionism still control our resources. For African people, we got to take control of that, and the first thing we have to destroy is neocolonialism.
All right, so decolonization, as we have heard, and in addition to that, decolonization also means looking back before the enslavement of African people. It also means looking back before the colonization of the African continent. How did we live How did we govern on ourselves? How did we manage with our economic system? Did we have economic system put in place? By whom? By African or by Europeans? How did we live? How did we govern? How did we distribute wealth among ourselves? And decolonization also means we cannot build our economic system on the model or the principle of racism, of neocolonialism and enslavement of African people. It's impossible. And decolonization also means we cannot work with the imperialists while they have different agenda and we have different agenda. Now, the next question here is, how did African people live before the 1600? Now, when I say before the 1600, as we all know, capitalism will try to read our history and put us in the time frame to say that we existed from the 1600. But not knowing, they themselves have come out to say civilization started in Africa. Now, if indeed civilization started in Africa, that means we have lived before the 1600 and we have things put in place before the 1600. That is before slavery or before colonialism. How did African people live before that time? And what economic system did African people have in place for the African masses or for the African people?
Well,
I like to say, go ahead, my brother. Go ahead.
I was going to say that. Yes, I was going to say that in African history, our people had a collective approach to helping and building our people. We had a collective mindset. We didn't look at how we can see poverty. And in regards to poverty, there wasn't poverty during our ancient history, because everyone looked out for the other person in the village, in the community, and in the nation. And our kings and queens had vast wealth. Therefore, that wealth was shared collectively to the village. And that wealth was handed down from generation to generation. Right? Africa has raw materials, raw material wealth. And based on that wealth, our villages, our people did not starve. There wasn't any want. We had hunters who went out to hunt for food, and that food was brought back to the village. And we didn't say, oh no, this village or this nation can have any of this food. That food was shared collectively, right? So there was no thought of greed. Oh, I must hold on to all of this wealth, as in our present day capitalist system, where greed manipulates the haves and have-nots. While in our ancient history, there was no such thing as greed, because our wealth was shared collectively with our people. So therefore, we have to try to get back to that village system, that collective system. Right? It takes a village to raise a child, right? So we have to try to get back to that mentality again.
Mm-hmm. Just to piggyback on what the brother was saying, that system we call communalism. That kind of system we had in Africa called communalism, where we had humanism, egalitarianism, and collectivism, where everybody worked together. The sisters helped out. They didn't cook. They helped raise the children. They did agriculture while the brother did the hunting. So we all worked together. And we lost that. We lost that when we became brainwashed. We became adapted the capitalist system, Zionist system, and so on. So we live in a community society where we all work together. We all work together. And we had, like the brother said, with nobody starving, if a sister lost her husband, the community took care of her. The community took care of the kids. So it was no loss, no hunger. But today you could look at our community. We got hunger, loss, our kids going wild. So we got to go back to community society, like Kwame Nkrumah say, conditional Africa.
So in addition to that, I think we all are on the same page as to Africa had an economic system put in place. We were not just a bunch of animals, excuse me to use our word, a bunch of people running around Africa as the European have come out to portray Africa and African people, if to say they're the one that gave us civilization, if to say they're the one that have established an economic system for us that we knew nothing. So we were just running around, hanging from tree to tree, rope to rope, like Tarzan, like they make the movie Tarzan, right? So we have an economic system put in place that one of our panelists just said, communalism. Communalism was a form of system that wasn't based on exploitation. Communalism was a kind of system that wasn't based on individualism. Communalism was a kind of system that based on the entire community, based on the entire village of villages, based on the entire nation to work together for the benefit of everybody and not for the benefit of individual. Communalism was not based on a system that says in order to survive or be part of the elite class, you have to be smart and you have to work hard. With communalism, you do not have to be smart or you do not have to work hard. You have to work in unity. You have to work in union. You have to work together. And together, the wealth of the nation or the state of the kingdom or the village will be distributed equally, and no one will go hungry, and no one will go feeding to himself that I am the Mediterranean among everybody. Everybody was identified as the Mediterranean. If one person was poor, everybody was poor. That is communalism. Now, that shows that we have an economic system. So, in order for us to find a new direction of this contemporary Africa, we have to look back to how we have lived or how we lived before the introduction of the imperialists on the African continent. In doing that, we cannot build the new economic system on the model of racism, on the model of imperialism, on the model of neocolonialism, on the model of few enrich themselves while the masses work hard and suffer and die in poverty. Capitalism. Now, let's go to my next question. What is socialism, also known as communalism? And is socialism and African?
Oh, yes. Socialism is Africa, came out of Africa. Karl Marx and Lenin, they studied Africa and they realized, oh, they would practice socialism. So they just changed the name to socialism. And socialism means who control of your means of production. And Africa at that time control its own means and production. That's socialism. So it's in the hand of the people, not on individuals. It's in the hands of the people. And you look at Africa today or people around the world today, you could see it, the resources not in the hands of the masses, but in the hand of neocolonialism or imperialism or Zionism. So that's where we could see the difference. And you can look at the door today. I mean, you can look at it today that we need socialism. Socialism means control your resources. Period.
That's right. That's right, my brother. Unfortunately, the Western nations, along with their capitalist systems, has painted or given socialism a bad name because of the 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 us versus them mentality, as capitalism is righteous and socialism is evil. So whatever you call it, socialism or communalism, whatever you call it, communalism will always work in the benefit of the people and the masses, while capitalism breeds greed and individualism. Right? Communalism is all about the community and bringing people together, while capitalism usually tends to breed individualism, me, myself, and I mentality, which has been very destructive to our communities in the West, has created a lot of poverty and individualism. Okay, I understand some of us have done well in the West, becoming doctors, lawyers, businessmen, but that's individually. But that individualism hasn't touched our communities, our people collectively. While collectively our communities are struggling, we're struggling. Majority of us are struggling as a people, which is the detriment of capitalism. Even though they're not really practicing true capitalism, because if you were a true capitalist, everyone would be a capitalist, and we all would have money. So, so that's my point.
Okay, once again, to our viewers out there, this is WCC We Charge Colonialism. I am your host, Frank Mauba, and chair for the Political Action Committee. If you want to know more about WCC, we encourage you to go on our website, wechargecolonialism.org, or you can send out an email, wechargecolonialism@gmail.com. Or you can also check our Facebook page, and we can communicate with you directly at any time of the day, of the night. You communicate with us. We are ready to communicate with you and to answer all of their questions. And we encourage you to join this organization as well. This is a movement of solution for the African people. Now, you have heard from the panelists about communalism. They both agree that it is an African. Now, one of the father of socialism, let me be specific, African socialism, Julian Nyerere, in his book that he wrote in 1967, the Ojuman, and in that book, he also gave a clear perspective, differences between the African socialism and the European socialism. And he also described in that book that in order to be a true socialist or true a socialist nation or communalism, you have to do away with that European model of socialism that is solely focused on I, myself. He described that as the the European socialism, also capitalist, I, myself. And he said, on the other hand, you cannot practice socialism with I, myself. You only practice socialism with I in the community. That means you involve yourself within a community. And once you do that, the community becomes part of you. And also in our book, he also discussed how we have lived as Africans, even before the European, before enslavement of African people, before the colonization of the entire African continent, how we have lived and managed with our resources and distribute our resources, how there was no poverty on the African continent. No one ever went with hunger to bear as compared to capitalism. where they say in order for your stomach to be full, you have to work hard and be smart, right? Now, the next question here is, can the economic system of Africa or African people be built on the principle of capitalism? Before we answer that question, I think somebody just joined, or we want to recognize our presence. So can you please introduce yourself?
Hi, my name is Joseph Graycheck. I have Payu Harris. He's a indigenous from the Native American tribes in South Dakota and Montana, in the United States. And I kind of have to give him a little bit of briefing. He was working on a website, so I kind of have to give him a briefing. I would like for his input. I would like for him to listen a little bit more on the conversation that's at hand. But I think he would have some really good insight and would be able to link up with you guys and do some more. Do some more projects.
All right, so I know you just joining us, but for the benefit of the doubt and for our viewer, so we will also want to hear your view or your perspective on what we are discussing here. So I will go back and ask you a few questions if we want to get your opinion or your view. So
yes,
the first question here is, on the topic, we have decolonization and the need for a new economic system. So what is your view, or what comes to mind when we say decolonization and a new economic system?
Decolonization, to me, what that means is separating ourselves from England and the British rule over in Europe. There's been a lot of atrocities that's happened with many people and many tribes that has separated us as people, and a lot of us have lost our ways, and we've fallen victim to basically the cattle herding and their capitalistic ways. And they say, well, you can have this, but you, without us actually being able to have control over our finances, without having control over our economy within our societies across the nation. It's really a global problem.
All right, so from your discussion, a question just came to mind, and that is going to go to everybody here. Why nations that were colonized and controlled or superseded by the imperialists, by the capitalists, why have they not succeeded by practicing capitalism?
Mm-hmm. Can you repeat that one more time, Frank?
My question here is, nations that were colonized by European on the model of capitalism, and up to now, those same nations, even though majority of them have gained partial independence, as they call it, but they also practice a system that enslaved them, a system that colonized them, which is capitalism. And today, majority of them, of those leaders or economists, are practicing the same system that enslaved them, that colonized them. But they are not still succeeding as compared to their colonizer. Why is this? Why are they not succeeding? What is the cause?
Well, I believe it continues with neo-colonialism to this day, where the Western nations, the capitalist nations, continue to control their colonies economically, militarily. They also have their secret organizations infiltrating their colonies to the point where they pay their leaders off to the detriment of their people. So that people could never really benefit from their wealth of their nations. That wealth, that raw material is taken out of their nations and sent to the capitalist nations or the Western countries. So that revolving cycle of colonization, poverty can never be broken, because the West is feeding off of the colonized people, to this day.
Just to piggyback on what the brother was saying, he's correct, and I think that neocolonialism is playing a very detrimental role in that, and you can see that in Africa. Period. Look at Africa. Period. I'll give you an example. Look at Azania, where they say apartheid is over. Apartheid still is alive and well because the Europeans still control 98% of the wealth. 98% of the wealth, and we just got figurehead. So to me is that what we need to do as a people is to get organized, to educate ourselves, and take control of our resources. Until then, we're going to be in a decimate. The Congo got the most resources in the world, and look at its people, it's suffering, making 50 cents a day, so you could use your cell phone, your laptop. Okay, so that's who benefited. The Gates, all the individuals, they benefit from it. The Mirage, all the corporate, they benefit from Africa, and we don't got anything as a people. But yet we use our cell phone, and we should thank Africa for our cell phone. Go without the cell phone, we probably still be in poverty. But again, it's that we as a people got to get organized, and like Marshall Garvey say, he had the most organized organization in the world, where he organized 6 million Africans all over the world. And we need to do that today by educating our brothers and sisters. Those who be going to college and involved, instead of going to the European, bring your education back to your community. We call it the brain drain. All these Africans, I'll give you an example. At Temple University, we got all these Africans come to Temple University from Nigeria. They will not go back to Nigeria to give their education to their people. They're ready to stay here in America to suffer and give to capitalists. That's our problem today. We call it the brain drain. So all these Africans who can live in America, Brazil, wherever, bring your education back to your community. Because it was your people who died and suffered, so you could get that education and bring it back to your community. And you are doing a disservice. Look at the Chinese. They get their education in America, they go back to China. Look at China today, the most powerful country in the world. Africa do the same thing, but we're not educated. But we got these neocolonialism people who, like the brothers say, still control our economics. Still pay these brothers off like Ubuntu, the richest man in Africa. So again, we need to organize our people, man, and educate our people and stop doing the brain drain and take our education back to our people.
All right, very good input. Let me just okay. Rapuya, you want to add to the discussion, and before I can come in. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, he's muted.
I think one of the things that happened.
Okay, there we go. Sorry, this is Paiute Harris. He's with the Cheyenne, Northern Cheyenne Nation, the Native American tribe, and the Lakota Nation, which is in Pine Ridge, South Dakota.
Okay. One of the things that's happened, and we suffer from brain drain too. People leave the reservation, but here's what happened. When they get that education and they come home, they're ridiculed and they're turned away because the people back home don't understand what they have. I'm sure, everyone's heard about Bitcoin, okay? I created the first Native American version of Bitcoin, the first Native American cryptocurrency. I was laughed out of the tribal office. harassed, ridiculed, threatened by my own people for bringing this back. Until a point where I said, forget you. I'll go elsewhere where I can work on things. We have to start getting to a point where when our educated young people, our educated people, period, come home, that they're coming home to be able to share freely. So they can say, this is what I've learned. This is what I'm bringing back. This is what I know how to do. How can I help? Oh, come over here. Let's help you here. But as long as they come home and they're laughed at and ridiculed and put down, they're going to turn around and go back where they don't receive that. So that's the other half of that, of the statement of the lady prior. We have to get to a point where, yes, they come home to share their knowledge, but come home to a welcoming environment so they can pass that knowledge on, to their communities.
All right, thank you so much. That was a great input into the solution. So basically, what we got from this question here is most of those countries that are partially independent, but are still being controlled by the same colonial master or colonial nation, or by the same European, or by the capitalists that colonized them. So in order to leave from that, number one, we have to get away from the colonial education. We have to educate ourselves on the model and principle of that entity or of the African culture or society. And second, I think one of the things that is still holding the African nations or countries that were colonized by these European is they are still practicing the colonial policy. So policies that were created during colonial era, those colonial policies are still in practice or practices. And that we can see that leaders that will come out to stand for their people, you will find that those leaders, by any way that they can get those leaders out, they will get them out. And they will run a propaganda such in such that the citizens of that country will never understand their intent or intention of taking that person down. We saw with Muammar Gaddafi. And even currently, with the African leaders that did not agree with the COVID-19 vaccine. Now, we are not saying here the COVID is not real. We are not saying here the COVID vaccine is not important. But we can see that every African leaders that were in disagreement with the COVID-19 vaccine, that question, it's not a bad thing to question somebody. Every African leader that questioned the COVID-19 vaccine, all of those African leaders die. None of them live. All of them die, and majority of them were in their 60 or die, right? So now, because colonial policies are in place that are never willing to make those countries to rise up and be independent on their own, be self-determined people, and to make decisions for themselves, because they want to continue getting the resources or exploiting the people. Now, another reason why those nations are never free or are not free is because of colonial domination. And what do I mean by that? Colonial domination through loan. These loans that are given, so like Thomas Sankara said, the men who feed you control you. And we have seen that to be a fact. So colonial domination through loan have kept or are keeping African leaders or Black leaders into a confined area that they are being dictated to. So if they can do what the colonial leaders or people that gave them loan says, they come after you and they take you down. And the first thing they say to you, we're going to stop supporting you. And once that kick in, the leader think that without the loan, without the bait, they are no longer going to survive. So that is why a country that were colonized by these countries are still underdeveloped and are still not independent. So in order to get away from, because as we are discussing, we are also trying to find solution. So the solution here is we have to forgo those loans. We can still survive. We survived before Europeans went to Africa. We survived before Europeans went and colonized those nations, right? So why do you think we cannot survive based on our resources? And it is our resources that these people want. That is why they're chasing us. So we have to know that we are the one actually feeding these people. We are not the poor people. They are the poorer nations. But until we can realize that we are not the minority, they are the minority and we are the majority. Until we can realize that we are not the poorer people, they are the poorest or the poorer people in society. Until we can realize that we are not the dependent, they are the dependent, we will never maybe come to some of the things we are discussing. And until we can unite based on our differences. But as long as our struggle, like Nelson Mandela said, I am not going to go against the man who recognized my struggle as a struggle, because I believe we both can work together to fight against the persons that pour in this struggle. So in that solution, I think we have to do away with this colonial mentality and stand on our own and start taking this colonial loan, because it comes with circumstances. Anything to be added before we can go to the next topic?
That's why Gaddafi was correct that we need to not pay these loans. We need to start our own bank, our own currency, and everything. And that's why this is what we need to do. But you got brothers on the continent. I forgot the president name from ANC, but he was corrupt. When he made this statement, he said, I'm glad Gaddafi is there so he could stop talking about one Africa currency, one African bank. You know what I'm saying? So these are mentalities we got in our homeland and our leaders. We got leaders who want to uplift Africa, but you got leaders who want to keep Africa down. Again, that's why we got to educate our people. It's very important.
And also, I like to piggyback on that. That's why it's so important to support our grassroots organizations here in America and worldwide who are on thinking the same frame of mind when it comes down to supporting our own institutions. Mainstream media is not going to speak our needs. Mainstream media is not going to portray our point of view. That's why we need to support organizations like We Charge Colonialism and grassroots organizations that will put our perspective out into our communities. All right, so that's important.
Okay, so Brother Sadiki from the Gambia was on. I was about to introduce him, but I think for some reason he went off. Either he's facing a network issue, but we hope he come back. But he did not send me a text as to why he went off. But I believe it is a network issue. But I hope he come back. So should we go ahead or anything to be added? All right. So, Brother Puya or Harry, I want to ask you another question. In your own perspective, we have discussed this already, but I'm giving you this question back. We discussed it before you came. So, we want to know your view on what is socialism.
Wow, that's kind of an interesting one, because my tribe was socialistic in nature, but our version of it was we had military societies and groups within our tribes. that handled certain affairs for the people. We had scouts, we had warriors, we had a society that was involved with regulating ceremonies. We had a chief society that was in charge of overseeing leadership. The Yapaha that were in charge of maintaining information and news for people. But all of our resources were all communal in nature. So when we go on buffalo hunts, you might be, tagged as this warrior brought this one down, this warrior brought this one down, but it was all part of a collective. The meat that you gathered, everyone got a piece of. And it worked beautifully in small groups because everyone looked out for each other. When you start getting into where people are wanting to be individuals, and I'm going to go off here and do my own thing, that's fine, but you end up impacting the camp as a whole based on your actions. Like if I were to say, I'm going to go hunt on my own, and I end up scaring the buffalo herd away from the rest of the camp, my desire to be independent and my greed to help only myself and not the society, not the camp as a whole, potentially cost us the entire hunt. That impacts everybody. When we talk about socialism today, where property belongs to, the community, I think if we had like community-based banks, businesses, and elements of our daily society that helped a community as a group, that could be a positive thing. It's not to say that people can't have individual interests, but you have to think in a camp-like mentality. I am a small part of a greater whole. If I look outside my lodge and I see a little one that gets hurt, I don't sit there and say, oh, well, that's the mom's problem. No, that whole camp will go out to see if he's okay. If something happened and you didn't have enough food in your lodge, the whole camp knew about it and would come out and say, hey, we can help you with this. And it just worked beautifully. Everyone knew everybody's problem. We had the same problems then that we have now. There were suicides. There were kids that got depressed and down and sad because they saw a girl they wanted to impress and they didn't know how to do it. So what would happen is people would talk and people would know. And, the warriors would come in and tell them, hey, gather your stuff. You're coming on a war party with us. You're coming on a raid. You're going to go do a deed. And when he did it and he came back, they put him out in front. And they told him, this young man's done something good. This is what he's done. Everyone come and look. The whole tribe would come out and cheer on and yay. And they'd bring him right to the lodge of the girl that he likes. And they tell her dad, look at what this brave man has done. Look at what he's done because he likes your daughter, because he wants to be with her. And it was a communal thing. We helped build each other up. The thing is, how do we do that today?
Collectively.
Yeah, as a collective.
As all nations, all tribes,
Exactly.
without the European model.
Exactly. I don't know if that was the answer you were looking for, but I hope it helped.
No, that's the answer. That's the answer because the panelists here as well that you made on earlier, we have discussed it, and that's almost as the same answer. They came out to. So before we can, I have another question to ask within what we just discussed here. But I want to introduce somebody from, I believe, from the Gambia, Mr. Sadiki from State 55. Mr. Sadiki, welcome. We are happy to have you. I know you kind of having a little difficulty with your internet down there connecting to us. But welcome. Can you please introduce yourself? Mr. Sadiki, are you there? We can't hear him. Brother Satula, are you there? We can't hear him. Sorry, he's having some difficulty. All right, so let me get into the next question just based on that. So now, I just created this question. It's not on here. I just created it based on the discussion that is going on, which is going on fine. Now, there was one thing the imperialists or the capitalists did that have made them also to succeed. In other words, before you can defeat an entity or before you can defeat somebody mentally, you have to make them to be aware that what they are practicing is not the right one. What they are doing is bad. And that was one thing that the imperialists have done throughout, especially to get rid of socialism in order for them to succeed. Right? Now, the question here is, we all now know that, or we believe that socialism is the way forward from what we have said here, different from the European socialism. How are we going? What are some of the things or measures that we need to put in place to get these messages to our leaders, especially because most of our leaders are still dying and warning with the capitalist leaders. So how can we convince them with these messages? Do we have to pass through them, or do we have to pass through the ordinary masses?
I like to say something like the guys say earlier, that the grassroots, we got to go through the grassroots people who thinking like us, like Pan-Africanism, who thinking about socialism. Them the people we need to work with a coalition with the grassroots, because our leaders, they gone. So we got to grow new leaders, new cadre to step up the line. And that's what we got to do today. Because our leaders today is corrupt. You know, the enemy got them in their back pocket. So we need to go to grassroots, and we need to build, and we need to build up and educate, organize our people, get new cadre to take the lead, work with the grassroots who thinking like us, who will do the same thing like us, and we need to push this forward. And that's the only way we could do it.
Correct. It's good. It's going to take a bottoms up movement, right? Africa, we have a very youthful population across the diaspora, right?
Yep.
Again, Pan-Africanism, we Pan-Africans, we have to connect. We have to connect. We're all over the world. One of the techniques Europeans used was divide and conquer, right? Or you're a Trinidadian, or you're a Jamaican, or you're African American. No, we just landed. They just dropped us off at different ports throughout the world.
That's right.
We're all over the globe. We're in Asia. We're in South Pacific. We're the majority. All we need now to do is to gain some type of trust, gain that trust back amongst our people. It's in our genes. That trust is there, but we just have to work on developing it again. It's in our DNA. That trust. We got to come back to that trust factor, and we have to support those grassroots organizations, which will take us to the next level. And our youth is going to have to will be the force to take us from the bottom up, because unfortunately some of our leaders are being controlled by those what do you call them, the puppeteers controlling the puppets. So it's going to take the bottoms up approach, because if we wait on some of our leaders, we're going to be old and gray.
Okay, so Brother Harris and Brother Joseph, any input?
Yes, I
You are
think
me. Okay.
this is just an idea. Maybe it's a good idea. Maybe it's a bad idea. But what I was thinking, uh, uh, with the thought, with the conversation that's happening right now, is to be able to we need to be able to share information such as this video discussion, but we also need to have our youth and adults, everybody, be able to have like study groups and actually
Hmm.
work on projects with the grassroots in whatever ways that we need to. And we need to be able to study and educate ourselves how to be able to control our economies. Because, yes, like brother, I'm not for sure, not Nazor,
Yes, Nassau.
Ade, Ade, okay, okay, like brother had said there, we have some leaders. I'm not speaking ill of all leaders, but there's some leaders, they're in it for just the money and the money alone. And how I've seen it on the tribes, it's like you have some of the tribal uh, politicians or tribal members that are part of the whole board, and that they're pocketing money and they're letting their people starve, and letting their people live in poverty. So there is a lot of puppeteers. I agree with you on that. But I think we need to be able to start our, like such as you're doing now with these videos, we need to put together a place to where we can all come together as a collective in a whole and be able to work on projects and actually push projects through.
Maybe one of the ideas is to go back to a tribalistic mentality. So we're more promoting kind of a pan tribalism, um, because both of our prospective people have all come from a tribal background. Um, so we have that shared history. Maybe it's time to look back at our each individual unique tribal heritage, excuse me, and look for the solutions there. Because it worked for our people how many thousands of years? It's only when the colonialists came did everything start to go backwards and change. So maybe we need to look how we were before that as a foundation for a path going forward.
Okay, that was a very great input. We need to look back. So to our viewer, we need to look back how we lived before, and we also need to look back to our great men and women who liberated, who spoke for us that the imperialists did not like in some other way, and they went against them. So we have to go back and look on some of their principle that why these colonizers hated them as well. So now let me make this clear. The issue here is because now is that the definition of socialism have been explained in such a way that most of our the generation now don't really know. So when you speak about socialism, they see it in a different perspective, because the socialism that was being practiced in those time period before the colonizer came were different from the European form of socialism. And the European form of socialism is the one that is being taught in school today. So when you speak of socialism, you will find your own brothers and sisters trying to not against you. So the issue here is we are trying to find solution to our problem. We don't even have to call it socialism. We can call it different names that will work in the interest of our people and for the masses of our people. We don't have to call it socialism. We can call it a different name. We can, in fact, we can come out with a different definition. We can come out with a different terms or name to describe what fit to our perspective, what fits to our interest, what fit to our narrative, and what fits to what will benefit us and the next generation to come. All right. Miss Sachs, Satura is back. We've been having difficulty getting him. So welcome, sir. We want to welcome you. He's from State 55. So can you introduce yourself and then we can go ahead? We still having problem hearing him. Can you hear us, sir? He is the president of State 55 on the continent. He is the one that is fighting for the African passport for all African around the world, for all Black people around the world. So he's in the Gambia, I believe. So he is the one advocating for the Equa passport for all Black people around the world to have the Equa passport that you can travel to Africa at any time and to any African country at any time, because we are all African, home and abroad. Kwame Nkrumah told us, so we must. Now, we cannot hear him, so we will just go ahead. All right, so he's saying he can hear us, but we cannot hear him for some reason. I don't know what's happening. So I guess we will just go ahead and then maybe we can get you on another time. But you can stay on here and get a discussion, but we can't really hear you, and you can hear us, but we can hear you. All right, so let's go to the next question. We almost done. The next question here is, can the economic system of Africa, or can the economic system of Black people, or can the economic system of people that were colonized be built on the principle of capitalism? If not, why? And if yes, why? Anybody can start.
You want to speak on that?
Yeah.
Okay. Payu?
I think one of the things we need to do is we need to more define that as one's individual desire versus, is that true capitalism? Just because like somebody wants a luxury car, does that make them a capitalist, or does that make them somebody with a dream and a desire? If they're only doing to make as much money as they can with no real purpose behind it, then we need to look at that. And I don't think that's the best. So we need to define, in my opinion, individual desire and pushing their dreams and helping our people follow those dreams versus just gathering everything they can for pure greed. And maybe this is a path for all of us to redefine the colonial mentality of capitalism. What is it really? What's the difference between greed and desire? Are they different? Are they the same? What's good and bad about both? Because if we say that it's bad, how can we then turn around and tell our young people, follow your dreams? If I have a son and his dream is to have a sports car, but that desire is interpreted as capitalistic, then it's a disservice to say, follow your dreams if that's what you're dreaming. If his dream is just to be rich and wealthy for no foundational reason, then he needs to be kind of steered towards, changing that dream so that it helps the community as a whole. And remember that he's part of something bigger than himself. So.
Anybody else?
Well, the first thing we need to do is to focus on the needs of the community or the village. Capitalism, true capitalism would have to focus on the needs of the village, of the people, right? Or true communalism will have to focus on the needs of the village and the people. And who best knows the needs of the village? Those who are living in the village know their needs from the bottom up. So to define capitalism or communalism, it will have to start from the bottom up, the needs of the village. And then when we define those needs, then we can focus on what the next steps will be. And the ultimate goal of the village is to make sure that the people are not in not in don't have a need. We would satisfy those needs in the village. All right. Once those needs are taken care of and addressed, um, there won't be any need for greed or want, because all of our needs would be satisfied. But right now, globally, and uh, where we live right now, that's not happening, because everyone is thinking individually and not focus collectively. So again, we're going to have to define what we need as a village, what we need as a people, and we have needs that are focused on African people, Native American people. We all have needs, so we have to define those needs and then work collectively together to achieve those needs.
And just to piggyback on that is that one, we got to make sure people got free health care, free education, free housing, and free access to stuff that they need. And once we meet them four aspects, then we can move on as a people. And that's why I see it. And when I look at Cuba, Cuba is a good example of how it made its people need first. It took care of its education, health care. That's why you don't have poor people in Cuba, poor health in Cuba. Education, literacy is the best in the world to make sure everybody. So once the basic need is set, like the brother said, then the village, the community, the nation, then we can move up to a higher level of also what else do we need as a people, like in technology or in science or in space. What else do we need as a people to survive? But once the basic need is taken care of, then we as a people, we can move on. If that's not taken care of, then we cannot move as a people.
All right. So before I can add to that, let me see. Brother Wadigi, are you there? Or can you hear us? He's online, but we can't hear him. All right. So yeah, let me just add to what Brother Harris said about greed and what did he say? Greed and what? Are you hearing me, Brother Harris?
Okay.
All right. So let me just go ahead. He mentioned something like greed and the other one I can't really recall, but I would like to touch on the other one. Yes. That's what Julian Nyeri also spoke about in his book that he wrote in 1967, where he talked about socialism.
Yes, I'm here. Go ahead.
Yeah. So you talk about greed, and the other one was what? He said greed and what? All right. Let me just go ahead. So he wrote that in his book in 1967, the Ujima book that he came about socialism, and he also described in our book
greed and desire. The things that people want. Just
very good. Okay, very good. Greed and desire. So now, desire, I believe, that was what Julian Nyeri described in his book that he wrote in 1967. And he said, as an individual, you can still be useful. That is, individual like I, apostrophe, in the community. So you can still teach your child You cannot deprive your child from getting his or her dream or desire, what the child want to be. The child have to be comfortable in what he or she want to achieve. But equally so, you have to instill in that child your desire should also benefit your people. Your desire should also benefit the community. That is I apostrophe in the community, not I apostrophe myself. So now when you say I apostrophe myself, that is greed. So it is up to us, because this is a whole different new generation now. So when you teaching your child or your children or your son or your daughter, yes, encourage a person to have their desire, because that will make them happy in society. That will make them comfortable in society. So, but you can also instill into them that I in the community, I involved with the community. So yes, you can teach your child for them to have their desire, what they want. But again, you have to give them that parental guardian, not the capitalist guardian to say if you touch your child call 911 and then they take your child from you. But at the end of the day, if the child does something wrong and then they ask, where are the parent? Where were the parent? Or your parent did not train you well. So we cannot allow society to dictate to us, but we can dictate to society. So in answering that question or adding to that, yeah, you can teach your child to have their desire, but equally so it is up to you again to instill into them the will of the society. So anything to be added, and then we can go to the next question. All right, so the next question here is, can African people, or again, people that were colonized by the capitalists, gain its full potential as independent continents or as independent nations or as independent entity through capitalism or through the product of capitalism, racism, slavery, and colonialism? Anybody can go first. Or you want me to repeat the question again?
Yes, please.
All right. The question here is, can Africa or African people or people that were colonized based on racism, based on the product of slavery or the product of colonialism, gain their full potential through the same system of capitalism?
No, it's impossible to work within a system which is unjust and unfair. The system that colonized Africa, the Caribbean, and the Americas is unjust. We have to create a system, one that works for us and for African people. And we have to go back into our history books. We have systems that worked. We have Black Wall Street. All right. We don't have to recreate the wheel. The wheel is there. We just have to come together and put the wheel together again. But again, we have to come back to trusting ourselves. We have to trust ourselves individually that yes, we can. I can do this. We can do this. Collectively, we can do this because it's in our DNA. We're the original people of the earth. We already had the wheel created, but we just have to learn from our mistakes.
Mm-hmm.
We made mistakes along the way.
Mm-hmm.
That's why our kingdoms fell apart due to disunity. Right? What God said, in your unity there will be prosperity. But if there's no unity, there will never be prosperity. So it starts with me, it starts with us, and it starts with all of us working together.
Any input?
Yeah, exactly. I've heard people that have said, I can do it, I can work in there, but it's like the sands, it's like the desert, like in Darfur. You can have a piece of metal that's inches thick, but if you leave it in that sandstorm long enough, it's going to eat through it. And it's just like us trying to stay in a capitalistic system. Eventually, it's going to wear us down. Eventually. We have to be able to keep building on ourselves in an outside element away from capitalism to where we're building up the foundation for our community and not allowing that sandstorm, so to speak, erode what we've built. So I would say we could take pieces that work for the community, but to work fully within the system, it wouldn't last as long as it needs to be sustainable.
All right. So let me see. Before anybody can go, let me see quick. Let me see if I can get Mr. Stira in. Mr. Sadiki, are you there? Can you hear me? He's trying to come on. He's sending me the text, but we can't still hear you. Can you hear me?
The internet must be very weak.
We cannot hear. He's asking me if we can hear him, but can anybody hear him?
No.
No, we cannot hear you, sir. So I don't know what's going on. We cannot hear you. All right, so let's continue. Anybody have any input to that question before we can go to the next question? We have two more questions left and we'll be done for today. All right, once again, this is WCC, We Charge Colonialism. So as we all know, May 25th is African Liberation Day. So we will be honoring our women. So we will have all women panelists, I guess. So we cannot forget our women, the role they have played in the struggle for liberation. So we have our women and they're going to be live and we're going to be discussing a whole lot of stuff pertaining to Black people around the world, around the globe, in solidarity, in our unity, in our solution. So our women have been an instrumental when it comes to our struggle, when it comes to fighting against the imperialists, when it comes to fighting against exploitation against Black people all around the world. Now, we all agree that Africa and African people, Black people, can never gain their full potential through capitalism. So now, the next question here is there any economic system other than capitalism that African economists can use for a new Africa? And if so, what would be that form of system?
One, like I said again, it could be socialism / communalism, where the economic system is for the people. The people control the wealth. The people control the resources. So we will decide how our resources will be used. Until then it can be no other system. So socialism is the only solution for our people because we will control our resources, like our bauxite, our gold, our diamond, our oil, our cashews. We will control all of our resources. Instead of the capitalists control our resources, they get the money and we get peanuts. Sometimes we don't get nothing. So again, socialism is the only way for our people, so we control our own resources.
That's right. Exactly as the brother said. Whatever if you call it capital, socialism, or communalism, we got to go back into our history. All right, we can't forget we have a rich and vibrant history of kings and queens and systems that there wasn't poverty. Everyone looked out for the community and the village, right? So it's in our DNA. We have to go back into our history in order to solve the present day problems that we're facing. Um, Again, it takes a village, right, to raise a child. Um, so us working together collectively, supporting our grassroots organizations uh, is the format that we should utilize, right?
Mhm.
We don't have to recreate the wheel. The wheel is already there. We just have to gain that trust and trust in ourselves that we can do this. Guess what? No one else is going to do it for us. The white man is not going to do it for us.
Mhm.
The Spanish man is not going to do it for us. The Jewish man is not going to do it for us. We're going to have to do it. No one else is going to do this for us.
That's why we need an African United Front. Again, that's why we need African United Front. Get all the organizations that you think alike, so we can move on.
All right, Brother Yaro and Brother Joseph, do you have any input?
Like I said again, African United Front is a vibe that we need as a people. And then also, like I said again, we need to go back to our
Okay.
history and understand that we need to control our resources. And like the brother was saying, England, France, Germany, all them, they're not going to help us. All they want to do is exploit us. So we have to do it as a people. And we got a rich history that we don't be taught in school about our history. We always taught about their history, what they did to us, how they took the Native American land, how Christopher Columbus discovered America, all that crap. You know what I'm saying? So we need to go back to our history.
Yeah, Brother Joseph. Brother Joseph, can you hear me? Any input?
I think one of the things that's important too, I think one of the things that's important is to understand the concept or the difference between.
Yes, can you hear us?
Yeah, we hear you. We do.
Hello?
Yeah, we do.
Hello?
I can hear
Can you hear
Yeah.
us?
Yes.
Yes, we
Okay.
can.
Audio. Hello? Can you hear us?
Yes,
Okay.
we do, sir.
Okay.
We do, sir.
Okay,
Go
there we
ahead.
go. Okay, here's by you.
Right. I think one of the things that we need to look at is understanding, the difference between. We need to understand the difference between how we see value. I might have a car that's got a flat tire, and someone might come up and say, "Well, I have tools, I can fix your car, but I don't have any money." Well, in a normal system, I'm out of luck. If I don't have money, I can't get services. But what if we look at an exchange of value as in trade? I might be able to say, I don't have money or resources, but I'll come clean your pool or do something for you if you'll help me with my car. And that builds a communal economy of a sort where anyone can obtain anything they want by identifying the value that they bring to the community and then offering that value in exchange for items that they need or desire. All money is money is just a simplified version of being able to do that. But if we were to go back and truly look at individual efforts as it affects the community, that could be an entirely new economic model that the world hasn't seen for 2,000 years. Maybe again, we go forward by looking back. Maybe that's the things the ancestors have left us, is the stories and teachings that they had. You know, because 2,000 years ago, we weren't using debit cards. People were helping each other, you know, helping with watching cattle or herding goats or hunting or building crafts. But everyone had what they needed because they pitched in with who might need something else. So again, perhaps our past is our future.
Input, Joseph? Okay, all right. So yeah, okay. So we can call it any name that we want to call it, as long it is to our narrative, as long it is for the African masses, as long it is for the black masses. We can call it any way we want to call it. We don't have to call it socialism. We can call it a name that fits to our enhancement, a name that fit to our form of economics that will benefit us, a name that will make us to take control of our resources instead of European controlling our resources and controlling our narrative. Those are the two things. We need to control our resources and our narrative. And we will now get to know that who are actually the poorest, people in the world, or the poorest nation in the world. We are rich people. We are not poor. So we cannot allow people to control the narrative, and we sit and depend on those narratives. We have to question those narratives, because those narratives are not truth narrative, when it comes to the way they portrayed us. All right. So capitalism is not a form of system, economic system that will enhance our progress, or that will build Africa, or that will build our nation, or that will unite us. It will keep dividing us and keep putting division amongst ourselves. So communalism. So we have to go back to our way of life. We have to go and check. We are not saying we should go back and live those primitive life. Excuse me to say it. When I say primitive, I don't mean in a negative way. But in those time period that our forefathers lived, it doesn't mean we have to go back in time to go live those same life. No. What we are saying here is, in order to correct the narrative, we have to go back and check how it was being done. And then what can we take from that and put it into our perspective, into our narrative, into this 21st century that will fit to our economic needs, that will fit to our economic system. But we cannot keep practicing a system that was based on our own exploitation. And then that is the reason why most of our leaders even go in terms exploit their own people. That is the reason why our own leaders, most of our leaders today in today's society, are practicing the same system, exploiting their own people and getting rich on the detriment or on the benefit of their own people, and not even knowing that they are punishing their own people, because it is based on a system that exploited us, and it keep exploiting us. So in other words, it's just blackface, but white practice behind the scene. And we will in turn blame the blackface, because the blackface is the one that is leading the shift. Right? Now, the last question here. What is really holding African people from funding a new economic system? Could it be the dependency on capitalism, which are called loan? Again, let me read that question. That's the last question, and we will be out of here. What is really holding African people or black people in funding a new economic system? Could it be the dependency on capitalism or the dependency on the loan system? As I will put it that way, the loan system.
I believe this is Joseph. I believe that it's the loan system. They dictate the colonists. They dictate who can buy credit, by means of credit, and as well as by the qualifications. Their qualifications is just unreal. So if we were to be able to around the world be able to have something of value, such as like cryptocurrency. I'm pretty big on cryptocurrency. I believe that is a good way for peer-to-peer transaction, working with the blockchain technology to be able to exchange value amongst countries and amongst the nations across the world.
All right, so before anybody come in, I just want to respond to a question that I saw here. Not a question, but somebody wrote something. Why are we focusing on the past? I think we should move on, from the future and think. I'm just trying to paraphrase the person statement they put down there. So it's not the focus, or it's not about moving on in the present and forgetting about the past. The reality here is, before you can have a strong house, it starts from the foundation. You cannot have a strong building without the foundation being strong. So the foundation is the one that defines the house. You can have a nice building and you can have all the beautiful pins and all the beautiful windows and all the nice glasses and things. But if the foundation is not strong, that house will not be a house. A little wind or a little flood or a little rain will wipe it away. What we are saying here is we are trying to find solution. We cannot move forward on the principle of capitalism. We have tried and it's not working. And we end up putting more and more debt on nations. We end up putting more and more problem, or putting our own people into poverty, and we cannot even find solution. And then the next generation come and then live within our same poverty range. So what we are saying here is, as we are discussing the problem and finding solution to the issues of our people or of us, we also trying to look back on how we have lived before slavery or colonialism came. We were not people that lived, that struggle. We were not people that live in poverty and stuff. We were not people that was begging other nations for resources or other people for capital or for loan and things. In fact, we were giving resources out to people. For example, Mansa Musa that they don't even talk about, that they try to portray that, oh, he was a bar ruler in Africa. He was the richest king, and no. This man came into Europe and distributed wealth to European people. This man traveled around the world and shared his resources to European people. And in recent time of our time in history, we saw that Muammar Gaddafi was trying to do that, to distribute the resources of Africa or to the whole world when it comes to black people, and they didn't like that. The imperialists didn't like for African people or for black people to unite, because by Gaddafi introducing that principle of distributing the African resources for all African people around the world will unite. And the fear of the European is for African people to unite. That is their biggest threat, for us to unite. That is their bigger threat. So they will bring down anybody who want to unite African people around the world, who want to distribute the resources of African people. Instead, they only want to be the people to exploit or to take the resources. And we have seen that in South Africa, when the black South African, or when the South African or the people who actually own the resources demand the land, demand the resources, whereas only 9% of European that control about 80 to 90% of the resources of the land, whereas 80 to 90% of South Africans are poor, who own the resources, who own the land, request that now we are not going to take it from you people, but we just want equal distribution. And they said no, they don't want to practice on a plain ground. They're not saying that all Europeans should leave South Africa. They're not saying that we want our resources and you guys are not going to benefit, but they are saying that it be distributed among us and let us compete. So that is why we are saying here when we are discussing some of these things and says that we have to go back and look at how we have lived and see. So these are some of the things that we are saying here. So we are not saying, oh, we should just move on. We cannot move on when we leaders are in place, are still practicing the same system that exploit us. And that is why we keep blaming our own leaders, because we keep saying, let us move on. Let us move on. And the leaders that are in place, they don't even know how to move on. So let a contribution go. Anybody can add. All right. No, we can't hear you. We can't hear you, Brandon. So we can't hear you. You muted.
Your mute on.
Sorry about that. So, if the system had truly practiced true capitalism, everyone would have capital. What is capital? Capital is controlling or utilizing the what is tangible, right? The capital is money, right? If everyone was a true capitalist, would there be poverty? I don't think so. Would there be greed? I don't think there would be greed if there was true capitalism. Everyone there wouldn't be any need for want. But unfortunately, due to greed and exploitation, the capitalists wanted to use free labor, which continues today, aka what's going on in China, Mexico, and South America. Free or cheap labor, instead of paying the public here in the West what they're really worth, they venture out and try to get free labor or cheap labor. So therefore, capitalism that we know today is really all about greed and exploitation, stealing from other nations and propping up an unjust system, which is what we experience in the West. So therefore, in order to break that cycle, again, we have to go back to our roots, our beginnings, our history. Right? We cannot never forget history, because we don't want to, history, there's good and bad in every history, but we want to learn not to make the same mistakes as our ancestors made. And some of those mistakes was disunity, allowing foreigners to come in due to our peaceful nature and welcoming nature. Our ancestors didn't see the ultimate, their ultimate plan, because of our nature. We're a peaceful, loving nature. Native Americans, Africans, our nature is communal. We want to help everyone, but due to our nature, we were taken advantage of. They sowed the seed of division, which led to stealing our bodies, our hands, our people, and then stealing the raw materials. All right, So that's where the greed and selfishness comes in, which is capitalism today. But that cannot work for a new Africa. That cannot work for Pan Africanism. That cannot work for our village, our communities. We have to build a system that's going to benefit us. So,
Great input. Great input. Any suggestion? This is the last question. Any suggestion? Great input.
Suggested quickly, briefly, uh, about the blockchain technology. I respect my ancestors, the good, the bad, which, I cannot claim, their successes or their downfalls. All I can do is learn from them. But with technology now going to the future, there is tools that's made it easier for us as people and as community or societies, such as blockchain technology, the value of trade. I think we should really be looking at that, because that is a great tool to be able to take over our finances within our communities. We don't have Uncle Sam over there telling us what we have to pay taxes on this. We got to pay taxes on that. No, you can't have this. No, I'm going to take your land from us. Or, so I think blockchain technology is going to be a great tool of the future, and we should really seriously take a look at it before the colonialists, the capitalistic society out there, the ones that are the controllers. We need to take a real serious look at that before they take advantage of it and try to continue to rule us today.
Okay.
Great answer. Great input. I think bro, you kind of froze. He kind of froze. All right. Before you come by, once again, this is WCC We Charge Colonialism. I want to thank all of my panelists for tuning in, and we also want to thank WCC member that are backstage. We have people backstage who are working on this technology. So that's one thing about this organization. We have people who are actually doing their work. Once we want things to be done, we just let them know, and they are backstage working. So we want to give them, that praise again. Once again, thank them for their hard work. It's not easy being, a technology. Sorry for that. Out here, I don't even know how to work, technology too much. So we want to, thank them for working behind the scene. They are behind the scene. They are reading or they are listening to us. So anything we wanted to do, they just go ahead, boom, they do it. They are doing a very great job when it comes to this organization. So we are on top of things. So we encourage people, to go on our website, on our Facebook, We Charge Colonialism, and also on our website, We Charge Colonialism, .org. Or you can send us an email, wechargecolonialism@gmail.com, and we will get to you, in a very timely manner. Also on our Facebook page. For that, almost every members are connected on our page. So I may respond to you, or somebody else may respond to you. I may not be the one responding. I may be the one, to respond to you any time of the night. Somebody, or anytime that there's somebody have to, get back to you, with their consent. If we don't, but maybe in the next 2 or 3 hours, we will definitely, get back to you. So May 25th will be African Liberation Day. So we will have our women, panelists, and they will be discussing, the revolutionary movement, and they will be discussing the unity. They will be coming out with new idea, new solution on how we all Black people around the world can unite and utilize the African resources, and not the neo-colonialists keep taking advantage of our resources and enriching themselves and giving all a little bit of what it takes from us. Billions of dollars they take from us, and they give us some thousands of dollars, and they think that they have done something, big, for us. They have done something great for us. So this organization, we are there also to expose, the ill in society, and to bring out the good and to put people
Be
on
quiet, Manish. I'm
their
on the phone.
spot. So we will keep doing this in the next coming months. Again, we're going to come out with another discussion as we are trying to unite and as we are trying to find solution for African people around the world. So we all believe, or we all have agreed, that capitalism is not a system for the for African people. We have to come up with our own system. We can call it socialism, we can call it communalism, or we can call it any names that we want to call it with. But as long as we unite, as long as it is a system that will decolonize every colonial institutions, it will be good for us. It's not going to be easy because we know the colonialists going to come back. They're going to threaten, our independence. They're going to threaten our leaders who will want to stand out and say, we will not send you loan. But hey, we can let them to know that we have the resources. Without our resources, you will not have your machine to move your machine to go for a war, to go bomb Yemen, bomb the Palestinians, or to go bomb the Middle East. You will not have those weapons. You will not have those guns, those machinery, those raw material came from Africa. So without Africa, you will not have those planes, those drones. You will not have, that kind of a computer system that you just sit down here in your country and throw a bomb in another man's country. You will not have it. So we have the power to put these people to where they belong. So what are we waiting for, people?
Yes.
Thank you guys for coming. So, any final thought, before we can depart, I'll give you the time.
Okay, yeah, I'd like to say something. He talked about African Liberation Day.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, we kicking off our African Liberation Day tomorrow. Our theme is forever to worldwide Pan-African unity. We got a 3-day event, and we're having panels, like Brother Frank said. We're also going to have a women panel on the 24th. So our ALD is kicking off tomorrow. Panel 1, panel 2, and then panel 3 will be the last panel for African Liberation Day, and that'll be our women panel. It's
wonderful.
Yeah.
Great.
And then final closing statement. All right. If not, then I want to thank all of you for coming on these discussions. I'm hoping on you guys again. So in the next coming months, I will be coming out with another topic that I will let you all know, and then we can go ahead and discuss. So Brother Harriet and Brother Joseph, thank you for coming. Thank you for having a great conversation with us. You can check us out, and then if you want to be part of this organization, like I said, all the information that you can just check out, and then, or if you want to be a member where you can come out to discuss, things of this kind, you can send out an email on colonialism@gmail.com, and then we can have your email on file and your information, and then anytime we're doing something like that, and we will let you know, and we will send you the link and the information as well. Once again, I am Frank Mauba, your host and the chair for the Political Action Committee for We Charge Colonialism.
Thank you all. Thank you to the panelists.
Thank you all, brothers. Thank you.
All right.
Thank you.